Jai Gurudev, Jai Masters. People used to tell me that I don't teach techniques. Everybody wants to teach techniques. They've all come up with avant-garde new techniques with new machinery and brain waves and ancient techniques, etc., etc., etc. The truth of the matter is, there's only one technique. It's kind of like when Christ said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no man cometh unto the Father but by me. It is the truth. There's a seat of transcendent consciousness, witness, is the beginning of it, and unless you pass through that, through the consciousness, the seat of consciousness itself, you're not going higher. That was what Christ consciousness means. He was in that seat. And it's true that no one can go past that, come on to the Father, but by me. It's the same thing with techniques. Every technique is really doing the same thing when you get to the root. There's a bottom root behind all of this. And it's as follows. I'm going to call it letting go, just because that's what I've always called it. But I don't call it a technique. It's an art. There's a technique. A technique is something you do. Art is something that naturally happens. Real art is natural. It's not an effort. It's not for sale. It's the expression, the natural expression of beauty and creativity. So let's talk about the art of letting go. First of all, the first misunderstanding when we teach letting go is that you're letting go of the world. Renunciation. Let go of what you like. Let go of things. That's not letting go. That's child's play. That's a form of suppression. If you want something and you deny yourself that you want it, that's called denial. It's a psychological problem. If you want something and you suppress it so that you don't have to deal with it, it's a psychological problem. It's psychology. It's not yoga. Renunciation is not yoga. If you're not doing that inside, but you do it outside, I can't handle such and such. This person, this people with money, people who talk like this, people who do this, people who do that, different expressions of love, etc., etc. I can't handle those things. So I have to keep them away from me. I don't want to be involved in them. Believe it or not, there's a form of suppression. You're just suppressing it outside before it gets inside, causing the trouble it causes, when then you have to suppress that. So pushing it away outside, or denying it outside, or renouncing it outside, is making sure it doesn't cause its trouble inside. If it was causing its trouble inside, you would have trouble with it, and therefore you suppress it, you fight with it, you push it away, you deny it. So that's an outward form of suppression. Now there are times, for example, if something you're doing is very unhealthy and it has to stop, you're better off fighting, struggling to not do it. Stop drinking, stop doing drugs, and so on. But that's a temporary state. You have to reach a state inside where things don't bother you. Nothing from outside should bother you. In the ultimate state, great masters, nothing from outside can bother you. Why? It's outside. You're not outside. You're inside. You live inside. The outside cannot bother you. The outside can bother the inside, right? Somebody says something that makes you feel weird. Somebody leaves you that you love, you feel terrible. Somebody insults you. The outside can absolutely disturb the inside. The answer is not to push it away, manipulate the outside so that it doesn't disturb the inside. That's as shallow as it gets. That's not spiritual growth. That's not spiritual growth. The answer is, what can you do inside so that the outside's free to be what it is? You can still deal with it, but not deal with it by pushing it away or grabbing it. Not deal with it by saying, it has to be a certain way for me to be okay. You have to behave a certain way. You can't do this. You better not do that. Why? Because if you do it, it disturbs me. Therefore, don't do it. That's not spiritual. That's manipulation. That's suppression. You're using the outside so you don't have to deal with the inside. That's what you're doing. It's fine. Things you will do outside you need to do, right? If you feel like you want to go and kill somebody, suppress it. or go away, move, whatever you need to do to not do that. But ultimately, I'm talking deep spirituality. And that is not deep spirituality. That is avoidance. That is basically saying I can't handle it inside, so I have to make sure it doesn't happen outside. I can't handle it inside. I can't handle it. Therefore, I have to make sure it doesn't happen outside. You just devoted your life to avoiding your growth. Because the very fact that you can't handle it inside is a psycho-spiritual problem. All right, due to psychology, you can't handle it. But basically, your work is inside. Your work is not outside. If you're doing it outside, temporarily it's fine. You're going to have to do things. But understand, your work is inside. Your work is, I used to not be able to handle it. You said this. Now I understand you're having a problem. Sometimes you behave like that. I can handle it. It's fine. That's really nice, isn't it? You just grew spiritually. Okay? My boss criticized my work. I used to quit. I'm quitting. I'm getting out of here. All right? I don't need anybody criticizing my work. Nothing wrong with my work. Right? Now, somebody criticizes my work. Guess what I do? I listen. I listen to try to see if there's something I can learn from the criticism. Which one's higher? So one is spiritual growth. You're working on yourself inside. And the other is avoidance of growth by manipulating the outside. And that's why Christ said, sooner a camel should pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man go to heaven. That's not true. I'm sorry, Jesus. If the rich man is giving all his money and helping everybody and doing charitable works, that's wonderful. But that's not what he meant when he said of a rich man. He's saying a person who has power, your political power, your looks power, your muscle power, whatever it is, your money power. I can buy off anything I want. You'll all behave the way I want you to. You ain't going to heaven because you did what I just told you. You're avoiding what's keeping you from heaven inside by manipulating the outside so that you say you're doing fine. You're doing fine as long as you can manipulate the outside. The moment you can't manipulate the outside, you're not doing so well. So that concept of if I have power and I can manipulate and control and make things be the way I think they should be, that is not spiritual. It's basically, I'm going to avoid I came to earth to grow. Earth is a place that souls are sent to evolve. You drop down here, you got issues, you're supposed to get rid of your issues, right? You know what the bottom line is? Some people say, what's the purpose of my life? I'll give you the lowest level of the purpose of your life. Here's the bottom line. You go back up with less than you came down with. You go back up on your deathbed with less garbage inside of you that's scaring you, freaking you out, that you need all this junk that's inside. You're freer when you go back up than when you came down. Most people are not. Why? Because they didn't do the work. What they did is attempt to manipulate people, places, and things so that they didn't feel bad, so that they got what they wanted. If I get what I want, I'm okay. That's not okay. That's like if my child's throwing a tantrum at 3 years old in a department store, and basically I say, oh, no, he's fine. If I give him what he wants, he'll be fine. I don't think you should do that. I don't think that ever worked out very good at all. But basically, you come down to understand it's about change. Spiritual growth means change. There's no growth without change. And the change is not, I'm going to manipulate people, places, and things so I don't have to grow. So I don't have to change inside. It's about interchange. So that is one level that people try to be okay, but it's not spiritually okay. It means nothing. If you're okay because you got what you wanted, that's the most meaningless thing. That's like heroin addicts saying, I'm doing fine, I just got my heroin. I'm being tough tonight. But you do understand that. It means nothing that you're okay because you got what you wanted. You're okay because you didn't have to go through what you didn't want to go through. It merely means you're not growing. You didn't change. You didn't change one iota. You made everything else change so you didn't have to change. Fair enough? That's fine. All right. So that's what happens outside. So the first thing you have to do is let go of that. But it's not renouncing. You're not renouncing what you want. You're questioning, why did I think I needed to be that way? Why can't I handle the way it is? And so you let go. You let go of, that's your bottom line, is you try to cease the behavior of manipulating the world to make it be the only way you can handle it. And we've discussed it before. It's a no-win situation. You can't possibly control every moment that's going to pass in front of you, can you? There's no way in the world, all right? There are so many variables that make that moment be the way it is. Somebody had a bad day at work. Somebody got a phone call about a death. Somebody had a wonderful day where you know nothing, and then that's just one person. What about all the people? What about all the cars? What about everything? There's no way you're in charge of the moment that unfolds in front of you. So if you sit there and say, the moments have to be the way I want them to be, and better not be the way I don't want to be, good luck. And you wonder where stress and anxiety and worry and all that stuff comes from. Now you understand, right? What are you worried about? That something might happen in front of me that I don't want. What else do you worry about? That something might not happen in front of me that I do want. I've just covered all your worries. So that's when a person wakes up spiritually. There's nothing wrong with anything. You're wrong, you shouldn't have done that. Nothing wrong. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. All right? There's no way you're going to manipulate every moment that passes before you so that you be okay. No one ever has, no one ever will. So therefore, waking up means there's got to be a deeper way to be okay, as opposed to conditionally okay. I'm okay as long as I get what I want. I'm okay as long as I avoid what I don't want. So now we've got past that. But to do that, you have to let go. You have to let go of doing that. Take another example. If you have problems inside and you're not okay, and you get rid of them by drinking, drugs, running around like a maniac trying to stay busy because you can't handle yourself, you need vacations all the time, right? You're doing the same thing. You're basically saying, I'm not okay inside, but I can create situations outside that make me feel better. What happens when the situation stops? I don't feel well. I have to do another one. All right? That's why you get addicted. That's why that happens. So that whole act outside, I'm going to take it as though you've gone past that, at least to a degree, to where you realize it's not going to happen by manipulating the outside or by drugging yourself. All right? So now what? Now the terrible thing has happened. Now I have to sit there and say, wait a minute, I have problems inside. How do you know? I think you know. You know how you know your problems inside? Because you have to have the outside be a certain way to be okay. That means you have problems. A person who's clear inside does not have any way the outside has to be. Doesn't mean they don't work with it. Doesn't mean they don't serve it. Doesn't mean they don't help it. Doesn't mean they don't have compassion for it. You understand that? But they're not doing that in order to be okay for themselves. They're already okay. So I want to skip a few steps and let you understand. There is a state in which you are totally okay inside. Every single one of you. When? All the time. No, all the time. All the time. All the time. All the time. No matter what happens. You're capable of reaching a state inside that there's this beautiful Shakti, beautiful energy pouring inside of you. The Bible calls it the rush of holy waters. Okay? Except it's not just a rush. It's permanent. Every one of you are capable of that. Doesn't make any difference what you ever did. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter how old you are. Whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're male, whether you're female. Nothing makes any difference. That is going on inside of every single human being. So that's the first thing to understand. You can be okay inside. I don't want you to think that I'm saying you don't interact with the outside. You don't interact with the outside because you're not okay inside. And guess what everyone else is doing? They're interacting with the outside because they're not okay inside. Right or wrong? Okay? And then what happens is I have a way I want it to be okay. You have a way you want it to be okay. All of you have a way, and they don't agree. Let's go to war. Let's fight. Let's do something, because it's not going to work. That's why it's such a mess. I've just explained why the entire thing, why you read in the newspapers what you read, why people do what they do. How could he do that? That's how. Everybody, anything. Don't you dare say, how could he do that? Because if you went through and had gone on inside of you what that person has inside of them, you'd probably do the same thing. Yogananda used to say, but by God's grace, there goes myself. So you get to the point where you understand why things are the way they are, and you decide, do you want to participate? Do you want to be a polluter? Do you want to continue throwing your garbage outside, trying to manipulate and control everything so that you can breathe? Or do you want to find out why you're not okay inside? Why do you have to do that? Why do things have to be a certain way? The world's been here for 4.5 billion years. How long have you been here? It's going to be the way it is. It's got a lot of history behind it, doesn't it? A lot of heritage. You ever heard the law of cause and effect? Cause is cause and effect. For every action is an equal opposite reaction, etc., etc., etc. The moment in front of you has millions and millions of causes that from the beginning of time spread forward and made the moment be the way it is. And you need it to be a certain way. Good luck. And that's silly. That's, if you look at it honestly, that's a pretty silly thing that you've decided the moment's supposed to be. Not only do you need it to be, you say it's supposed to be. Every one of you. If it's not the way you want, you say it's wrong. You shouldn't have said that. Oh, what do you want to bet? They said exactly what they would have said if every force that ever was that influenced them standing in that moment made them be that way. All right? So now that's the outside. Now we come inside, and we're talking about letting go. So we let go outside. That's not that hard. It's not that hard to practice some discipline to not have to have the outside be a certain way. I can't stand when you talk to me that way. I told you not to talk to me that way. My mother talked to me that way. Don't talk to me that way. How does that help you? How does that help you with the stuff you stored about your mother? How does that help you with anything for the rest of your life? In other words, don't hit my soft stuff because it makes me feel bad. Well, how about instead of saying that, we sit there and say, let me work on my soft stuff. so that you can say whatever you want. All right? I don't have to dump my stuff on. You're dumping your stuff on people. Okay? All right. Now we're starting to talk about spiritual growth. So you let go outside, meaning you don't do outside to the best of your ability. You don't do outside that which you need because you're not okay inside. That's a form of letting go. Most people can't even do that. But if you're here, you probably can do that. You probably caught on a little bit that you better be doing that. Otherwise, you're neurotic. Okay, then what happens? Just what I thought would happen. If I don't stop you from saying what bothers me, you're going to bother me. Not on purpose, but just the way you are reminds me of my sister, and I didn't like my sister. Or my whatever. I had trouble with the church. Something happened when I was younger, right? Now every time I drive by a church, it bothers me. Get rid of the churches. Where can I go to not have churches? There you are. So if I don't do that, if I practice the discipline of not manipulating the world so it doesn't bother me, I'm going to be bothered. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be bothered by definition. Okay? Now what do I do? Oh, now you're in my territory. All right? I'm not going to call it a technique. It's an art. It's a natural art. You notice this bothers me. Do I want it to bother me? Do you want to be bothered? Right? But it would bother anybody. So what? Let's not play around. Do you want to be bothered? And the answer is no, I don't want to be bothered. Okay, then you have to work on the fact that bothered you, because you're not going to be able to get rid of all the churches or get rid of everybody you might talk to a certain way. So at some point you have to face it and say, I got some work to do in here. A lot of people drive by churches and like them a lot. Okay? So you start owning the problem is you. It doesn't look like that. It looks like the problem is something outside bothered me and it shouldn't have. It's never that. Never. The outside is what it is. You know what the outside is called? Reality. That's a big word, reality. It means the forces that created the outside are the force that created the outside. I told you, in the new book, Living Untethered, I have the story, and I won't ever tell it publicly because I want you to read the book. I like the story. I just get the punchline. If your great-great-great-great-grandmother did not meet your great-great-great-great-grandfather, you're not here. That's true of everything. If everything didn't happen the way it was, the way it happened, this wouldn't be here the way it is. And you want to manipulate it. Good luck. All right? So basically, the outside, you do your best to let go. It's going to bother you. You have to own that. But you stop saying it's bothering me, and you start saying I'm bothering me. The moment in front of you is not bothering you. You're bothering yourself about the moment in front of you. The driver in front of you is not bothering you. You're bothering yourself about the driver in front of you. The fact that you're catching all the red lights in the town is not bothering you. You're bothering yourself about the red lights. The fact that it's raining out is not bothering you. The fact that it's windy and you just had your hair done and it's humid, it's not bothering you. You're bothering yourself about it. Okay? So you come inside and now you're starting to do the work. That says, why am I bothering myself so much? I'm bothering myself about what you said because you smirked a little bit like my grandmother used to do or something like that. And you don't mean the same thing that she did. You're a totally different person. Okay? Your hair looks like somebody, the first girlfriend that broke up with me when I was 12. I don't like you. You do it all the time. And so you come inside and you start using the letting go technique that's used outside. If you don't let go outside, you're not going to get inside. You're going to keep manipulating outside. So you kind of let go of doing that. Inside, it's going to be disturbed. You're going to get hit. Right? You have to learn how to get past that, how to deal with that. How do you deal with it? The highest way to deal with the fact that something bothers you is, one, remember it's you. It's not the thing. Somebody else is not bothered by the exact same thing that happened to you. And you just realize, okay, I did this. I want you to own it. You have to own your stuff. Otherwise, what will you do? Defend yourself. Next time you defend yourself, and you do it all the time, I want you to ask yourself, what am I defending? And do I really want to keep that part of me? You said something that wasn't comfortable to me. Do I want to make sure you don't ever say that again? And I defend myself? What about everybody else that could say it? Or do I want to look inside and say, fine, somebody said something. I told you where I live. I don't know about you, but I sit on a planet that 1.3 million of that planet fit inside the sun. And I'm bothered by what you said? There's 8 billion people on the planet. and somebody said something. Everybody's saying something. And I'm being bothered by what somebody said. No, I don't think so. No, that's unacceptable. Why? Because I'm going to be bothered. I'll be bothered all the time. Right? I'm going to worry about whether you like me, or worry about what you said, worry what you meant by what you said, worry about really what's going on in your, right? Do I want to live like that? No, I don't. Do you? Wouldn't it be nice to wake up in the morning and just have fun? Go to work and deal with your family and have breakfast and get a shower and water fall on you and just have fun with it all until you die. And then find out what happens after you die. That'll be fun too. Why not have fun? You're on a stupid little planet in the middle of nowhere, black all everywhere, and you're driving yourself crazy. And you're blaming everybody else. It's hilarious, okay? Neither you nor I can read the newspaper and be okay. Right? Well, that's ridiculous. It's a piece of paper with some words on it. Okay? You reach the point that you realize, what am I doing? What you're doing is you're defending yourself. You're protecting. You're fighting. And you start realizing, I don't want to defend myself. I don't want to keep the part I'm defending. And so you start to work on yourself. And you realize there's the main part of working on yourself. The outside, the main part was, I don't want the outside to screw up my inside. I don't want to have to manipulate everything so it doesn't. I just don't want it to. Wouldn't that be fun? Like I said, you could still deal with the outside out of love, out of caring, out of compassion, out of giving. Not, I can't handle you, so now I'm going to manipulate you so you be the way I need you to be, so I'm okay. See the difference? One's taking, the other's giving. So don't ever forget, I'm not saying you don't interact with the outside. You do not interact with the outside because you can't handle it inside. First, learn to handle it, then you can serve. You can do good. You can raise it. So now we're inside, and I can't handle it. There we go. It comes, it happens, it hits my stuff. What do I do? Your tendency is to defend yourself. Your tendency is to run away, fight or flight. That is a natural tendency. Somebody says something that bothers you, you either attack or you run. I don't have to put up with this. Run away. Don't you dare talk to me that way. There you go. Isn't that sweet? Okay? You make a mess because somebody said something. So you decide, I don't want to be like that. I am like that. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to deny the truth. It is like that in here. But it's a mess in here. And I don't want it to be. I want to be able to help people, not manipulate them. I want to be able to handle reality, not say it's wrong because it's not the way I want it to be. Okay? So how do you do that? You do this process called letting go. Now we're not letting go of the outside. Now we're letting go of the inside. See the difference? What does it feel like when somebody hits your stuff? It's just, ooh, this yicky feeling happens inside, doesn't it? Anywhere from just uncomfortable to, freaky. Yes or no? And everyone knows what I'm talking about. We're all in there, okay? Yes, it can be like that in there. So the first question is, do I want it like that in there? Or do I want to work on it not being that way? You can't work on it not being that way if you can't handle the way it is. If I'm afraid of blood and I can't stand the sight of blood, I am of no use at a car accident. I can't do any good. I run. If I can't handle that the disturbance happened inside of me, you're not going to fix it. You can't handle it. You're going to either suppress it inside or you're going to suppress it outside. Either stop, don't you dare do that, all right? Or you'll suppress it inside. So people are doing it, I can't handle it. Those words, I can't handle this. What does it mean I can't handle it? What does that mean? What are you going to do if you can't handle it? It happened. There's not a single thing you can't handle that didn't happen. That's why you can't handle it, because it happened. You can't make it not happen. So you better learn to handle it. Do you think you can learn to handle it? Of course you can learn to handle it. You just haven't bothered. You haven't done this work inside yourself. No one told you you could. They taught you how to win friends and influence people, how to be powerful and manipulate the world so it be the way you want it to be. Okay? It's all you're taught. You're not taught, hey, if you have a problem inside, you need to fix that first. Otherwise, you're polluting the world with your problem that's inside. Okay, so now it has happened. My motive, it's all about motive. Motive is the most important technique. You want a technique? Motive. If my intention and my motive is to learn to handle these disturbances inside so I don't push them back outside and I don't push them down, suppressing them, that is the highest intention. You're not going to be perfect at it, but if it's your intention, in the end, you will end up where you want to be. Period. Why? Because you're working on yourself. So now what do I do? What do I do if something happens and it starts hitting? The first thing I teach is when you go to play the piano, you don't start with Beethoven or Mozart. You start with the scales. It's the same thing here. I don't know why we don't understand. If you put the tennis racket up and you can't play tennis, do you say, I can't play and throw it down? Can't play the piano? I've never touched it. I don't know how to play. And leave? No, you say, I want to learn. Learn is a key word in spirituality. I want to learn. It's true. I don't know how to do it. How's that? I don't know how to let go when something bothers me, especially big things, right? Let's be honest. Okay, I have trouble with that. And most people have trouble with small things. I don't know how to handle the driver in front of me when they're driving slower than I want to go. It disturbs me. So you be honest. But then there's this word called learn. And I don't understand why you're willing to learn the piano. You want to learn the sport. You want to learn all kinds of things. You like doing it. It's fun. It's exciting. You get better at it. You feel good at it. Why don't you learn this? This is the most important thing you can learn in your entire life. How to what? Handle life. And that's how you end up going back up with less than you came down with. You work on it. My suggestion is that you don't work on the big things first. Yes, I understand there's problems in there. I understand there's sensitivities that are very big. But there's also little things, like the scales on the piano or the ball thrower in tennis, all right? The driver in front of you, the fact that it's raining when you have to get out of the car, the fact that it's hot out. You start with the littlest things that it's silly that you're bothering yourself about them. The only reason they bother you is because you said they do. I want you to take those where, from a business point of view, there's a cost-benefit analysis. The cost is 100%, the benefit is 0. What's the benefit of complaining about the heat when you have to walk from your car 50 feet to your house? All right? Or the fact that it's raining out when you have to get out and deliver something. Or the fact that the driver in front of you didn't use his blinker. Or somebody cut you off a little bit. What's the purpose? It didn't change anything. You just bothered yourself. Those are the ones I want you to work on. The easy ones. Why? Because you don't even know how to do those. Really, I'm begging you, do not think these small things are irrelevant. They are the beginning of serious spiritual growth. And so you sit there and say, if I can learn to handle these simple things and not bother myself, I've just learned to let go. I told you. What can you do when it's hot out instead of complaining and carrying on? It was so hot. You tell everybody all day, oh my God, you're so hot. Did that make it cooler? Did it help at all? The fact you carried that through your whole day? No. So there are things you can do. I can share with you the things I started doing when I was in my early 20s. I'm probably 23 years old, 24 years old. It's hot. I had no air conditioning in my VW van. I was a hippie. And my house had no air conditioning, plus I lived in my van for a while. So basically, it was hot. That's all there was to it. Not as hot as now, okay, but it was hot. Plenty hot. In Florida, you got in the 90s in Florida, right? So at some point, I watched him complaining, because that's what he does, all right? Watched him complaining. And I just said, all right, slow down. Shh. I'm not going to fight with you. Just slow down for a minute. So I talked to him. You got to be able to talk to that little mess in there, okay? All right? I said, why is it hot? He said, it's hot. Why is it hot? Because the sun is out there hot, shining in the summer on me. It's hot in the summer. That's why the sun's doing it. And I'd ask him, oh, the sun, I see. How far away is the sun? He knows. He likes astronomy, cosmology. He said, 93 million miles. Oh, that's a big number. 93 million miles. How far is away from Miami? 350? Right? How big would a fire have to be in Miami for you to feel the heat here? It ain't going to happen. I don't care if the whole city and every building in it caught fire. You would not feel it up here. That thing's 93 million miles away. And it's so hot you're complaining. That is unbelievable, isn't it? That's awesome. And then he'd get quiet for a minute, and then I'd say, by the way, it's not the sun, it's a star. Just like all those stars you see twinkle, twinkle, twinkle out there, this is one of them. You're so close to a star that you feel its heat. Did you know that? That's pretty far out, isn't it? That's what's going on. You're so close to a star. There's 300 billion of them in your galaxy, but you're so close to this one, 93 million miles away. It must be so hot. I told you how hot it is. 1.3 million Earths fit inside the sun. I'm going to repeat that. 1.3 million Earths fit inside that star. That's how little you are. and it's sitting there shining all the time, and you're going to complain. That'll shut you up, right? And what started happening is every time I felt the heat, I transcended being on the planet Earth. I'm feeling the cosmos. I'm feeling God, okay? I told you, you don't get sunburned, you get starburned. Now, isn't that a lot more fun? Hey, man, I got starburned today. You see, that's called positive thinking. That's called creative thinking. That's called working with yourself instead of letting this lower junk that's inside run your life. All of a sudden, it's fun. I don't mind the heat. Every time I feel the heat, I look at the sun and I say, thank you. Not to mention, it kind of makes the food and keeps everything warm. And it's a really nice thing, that star, okay? It's a very special star. You stop complaining about it. So basically, you can do that with everything. All these little things. If you ever get stopped by every single traffic light driving into town, you start thinking, well, what did I do wrong? It's not personal, I assure you. The traffic lights don't know who you are. And so you stop by a train, big long train. Count the cars like you do when you were little. Don't sit there and complain. Have fun. Wait for the caboose. Sometimes I have cabooses. Learn to change your attitude about the reality you're experiencing. And next thing you'll know, if you can do it with the sun, if you can do it with the train, if you can do it with whatever it is, you'll find out you just learned how to let go. Little. Now you can let go of little things. How did you learn how to let go? You wanted to. The most important part is intention. My intention was to change what I'm doing in here when something little happens I don't like. And you succeeded, didn't you? You can succeed at that, can't you? All right? You work on it. You keep letting go. And I'm telling you, the next thing you know, something big is going to happen. Something bigger is going to happen. Not giant, just a little bit bigger. And you're going to realize, that didn't bother me. Certainly not as much as it used to. That's amazing. To me, the growth is when someone says to me, I was at work and this happened, and blah, blah, and I was driving home and I realized, wow, something happened at work that would have bothered the heck out of me. I didn't even think to be bothered. That's because you learn to let go. It's a natural process. What's the opposite? The antithesis of letting go? Resisting. Maybe that helps you understand letting go. Do you resist? Resistance. Push it away. Control it. Manipulate it. Protect yourself from it. Right? You're in there with hands, aren't you? You push it. You resist it. The alternative is to relax. Instead of pushing and fighting, you in there relax. Don't make it relax. Teaching you deep stuff now. Don't make the fact that the disturbance is there being disturbance. It's about you being comfortable with the disturbance, not making it not be disturbed. If you have to make it not be disturbed, that is almost equivalent to manipulating the outside to make sure it didn't happen. You have to learn to sit there and say, I can handle this. There. That's the opposite of resistance. Not, I can put up with this. I can't handle this. You can't do that. Right? It more of a, I can handle anything. I can handle it. I can handle this. Right? You had a bad day. You came home. You didn't say hello. You ran into your room, slammed the door. Okay? It's not personal. I wasn't there with you all day. I didn't do it. Okay? And when you come out of that room after you quieted down, I don't have to say, well, how could you treat me that way? What's wrong? Why'd you slam the door? I didn't do anything. There you go. That's a good way to mess everything up completely, isn't it? What's wrong with, woo, you had a bad day. And it passes through. So you're not trying to change the disturbance. You're trying to change your relationship with the disturbance. You're in there experiencing the disturbance. I'm not denying that. This is not avoidance. It's accepting this disturbed me, but it didn't need to. And I can be okay with the fact that for a moment I felt weird. I felt jealous. I felt insecure, as I did. He walked in, slammed the door. Oh, he doesn't love me anymore. What are you kidding? You had a bad day at work. It has nothing to do with whether he loves you. It has nothing to do with you at all. 99% of the stuff you take personal has nothing to do with you. But you can't handle it. Therefore, it has something to do with you. So basically, what if you can let it go? They can handle it. So notice I'm not saying it didn't cause a disturbance. I don't want it not to cause a disturbance. That's like saying I'm going to get a tennis coach and I'm good at forehand. Just hit the forehands because I'm good at them. No, hit the backhands because I'm not good at them. So if something comes in and causes a disturbance, good. It's backhand time. It's time to learn something I haven't learned to do yet. How to handle this particular vibration that is happening inside of me. Some people say, I'm trying to let go. I'm afraid that I'm resisting. Am I suppressing? You're sincere. You're trying to do this. That's beautiful. Okay? What you're going to find out is that you can't handle, you can, but you don't want to handle the disturbance. You don't like the disturbance. Why would I? Well, I like being disturbed. Who wants to be disturbed? Okay? If you can handle the disturbance, it comes and goes. If you can't handle it, you resist it. And if you resist it, I guarantee you it stays. Remember the time you came in here 2 years ago and slammed the door? That bothered me. 2 years later. We didn't say anything. Yeah, I don't want to say anything. It bothered me too much. Now what you want to be like? Carry the thing inside of you for 2 years? Ruin your relationship because somebody had a bad day? Don't you blame them. You're doing it. All you have to do is handle the fact that they had a bad day. They came and slammed the door. So what? But you can't, can you? And I'm telling you, of course you can, but you have to learn how to let go. Like I said, so first you try to make sure it doesn't happen because you can't handle it. Second, you try to push it away because you can't handle it. Suppression. And now we're at the point where we sit there and say, I want to be able to handle it. I want to be able to handle it. So that I'm not disturbed all the time or afraid of being disturbed or suppressing and holding on to things that disturbed me before. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to stop messing myself up. I want to be healthy. Just like you eat, most of you guys eat decently. That's how you bother being vegan or vegetarian or whatever you do. Organic, I don't care. But you're going to respect the body. Well, why don't you respect your psyche? You keep shoving junk that bothers you inside your psyche, it's going to be bothered. And don't blame it on what bothered you. Blame it on that you couldn't handle what bothered you. So now I own it. This is my responsibility. And I'm going to little by little start with small things. And I'm going to practice this thing called letting go. Ultimately, what I have found is the highest technique of letting go is relaxation. Just like yoga. Get into yoga asanas with yoga teachers teaching you and said, oh, it's getting tight. What do they say? Relax. Don't they? Relax into it. And it works, doesn't it? You relax. Oh, it goes a little deep, right? The muscle goes a little, and then it starts to feel good. You know, Shakti. There. This is inner yoga. These are inner asanas. You do the exact same thing. You relax. Not it relax. When you're in the yoga asana and you're stretching, you can't make the muscle not be tight. You relax behind it, and then it relaxes some. Just like massage. If somebody's massaging you and they hit a spot that's really sensitive, do you get up and punch them in the mouth? You know what you do? You say, oh, right there. Oh, my God, there. Right there. Right. Don't you? I want you to do that inside. I want you to do it inside. Well, you sit there and say, whoa. And say, hit something in there. That really caused a little ruckus going on in there. In the mind and the emotion. Whoa. Isn't it funny? It's funny that can happen in there. All right? That's your spiritual growth. Now I'm talking about spiritual growth. Why did that happen? Because it hit something that was in there. 99% of everything that happens in your life goes right through. The clouds, the sky, the weather, the trees, the car, white lines on the road, things you hear. 99% of every single experience you have that comes in through your senses every single day goes right through. Doesn't seem like it because the 1% hits your stuff and all of a sudden it's flying around in there and you just realize, no, the world's bothering me. Not most of the world's not bothering you. Okay? I gave you that talk. I can't do it all. It takes too much time. I gave you that talk yesterday. How many things are going on right now in Gainesville? How many things are going on? Everything. Everyone's talking, everyone's the thing in the house. Billions and billions and billions of things. What about in Florida? What about on the whole planet Earth? What about on all the planets? What about in the whole 300 billion stars? What about in the 2 trillion galaxies? You handle it all just fine. You don't have a single problem with it. What's going on in the rings of Saturn right now? You couldn't care less. Why? It doesn't bother you. So I'm telling you, 99.99999% of the universe does not bother you. But that 0.001's a bitch, isn't it? It's like, but what is that 0.001? It doesn't bother her. What bothers you? It didn't bother you yesterday. What bothers you today? It may not bother you tomorrow. What bothers you today? Right or wrong? Okay, it's you. It's not the thing. It's you. And you have to own that. And then you have to realize, wouldn't life be a lot nicer if all of it passed through, and then I can come and express myself and deal with it and help and serve and create and be inspired by things, as opposed to, no, I really enjoyed my job before, but now this other guy got the raise, and I don't like it anymore. I don't work here. You do not have to be like that. So basically, now we're learning to work inside. That's what letting go means. It means, can you handle, not can you handle the world, can you handle the reaction that happened inside of you because of the world? And then you'll get quieter and you'll start practicing. You'll start realizing, well, why is there such a mess in here anyways? Why am I so sensitive? And you realize, and I'm telling you a secret, it's because you stored stuff from the past inside of you that the present bothers you. Stuff you didn't store, like the rings of Saturn or the cars that drive by, hear me? Stuff that you didn't store stuff about inside can't bother you. But if you suppress stuff in the past, that stuff is sensitive. And anybody who touches it, even on the edges, it comes flying back up. Yes or no? Now you understand the relation between psychology and spirituality. But spirituality says, if you will let go of the stuff, you're not going to have any problems. There is nothing in there except your will resisting. That's why stuff stays inside. Well, if you're doing it, you cannot do it. That's what yoga says. You hear me? I don't care what it is. No matter how big it is. You don't understand. Yeah, I do understand. Doesn't mean I don't have compassion. But you don't really want me to feel sorry for you. That does not help you one iota. Does everyone understand that? Temporarily, it says, oh, he understands me, I feel better. You still got your stuff. Somebody else walks up, doesn't appreciate what you said, and you fall full of junk. So if you don't want to keep it, you have to be willing to let it go. So basically now what we're looking at is start with the small stuff, how relax your way through it, have fun with it. Have fun with it. It's a video game. You have a built-in video game. You do. All right? Pac-Man's going to eat you. And so you just keep relaxing. You keep relaxing. And then something bigger is going to happen. And you're going to notice that it's easier to let go. Why? Because you practiced. You see, you learned. You learned how to let go instead of fight everything and resist everything. And then something bigger will happen. And what's going to happen at some point is you realize as you let go, this stuff you stored inside from the past. Like, people write me, I'm fine, I'm letting go of everything, but I can't handle my family. If I go with my mother or my sisters, that's because you have all this garbage that you stored in there from the past. Your mother and your sister are no different than the other 8 billion people on planet Earth. There are people that came down on the planet Earth, they're here and they're going to leave. I said once, you know who your parents are? People that if you go into their house, they don't call the police. Most of the time. You heard me. There's people on the planet Earth. Stop it. Okay? But you got serious stuff about them, don't you? And the same thing with your sister or your brother or your uncle, whatever the heck it is. Okay? The reason you have trouble is because you stored all this stuff from the past that you didn't like or that you did like. Who knows? Whatever it is. It shouldn't be in there. It should not be in there. It doesn't mean you don't have memory. You can bring your memory back. But this isn't memory. These are some scars. That's what the yogic word for it is. They're patterns that you couldn't handle and you suppress them inside of you. So they're still there. The computer has memory, but if it's a decent computer, it doesn't come up by itself. It comes up when you ask it to. These things come up by themselves, don't they? All right? So you just get to a point you realize, I don't want to store this stuff inside of me. Well, then don't. I don't want to have this stuff inside me. Then let it go. Well, how do I know what to let go of? Don't worry, you'll know. How do I know which one I should do now? The one that's bothering you now. It's a natural process. That's called purification. Your mind does not want that junk stuck in there. And your heart does not want that stuff in there. It will push it out. That's why you have disturbance all the time. It's pushing the junk out. But you will let it. You don't think to push it back down. You have to start welcoming it. Now we're going to graduate school. First you try to stop it from happening by the outside. Then you try to stop it from happening, bothering you by pushing it down inside. Then you start to say, okay, I'm going to work with this. When you work with it, it works. And you start to get more centered. What does that mean? There's less stuff is pulling you out of your seat of consciousness. Less stuff is disturbing you, therefore you're able to stay centered naturally. Centered is not a state you make yourself be. Center is a state that you are when you're not disturbed, when you're not pulled out of your center, which is what's happening all the time. Things is distracting you, all this garbage inside, distracts you from your center, and you're busy down here working with it or avoiding it or doing something. When it's not doing that, your center is totally natural until you reach the point where you will never, ever get pulled out of your center. You become established in the seat of self, not by fighting, not by techniques, but by letting go of what's pulling you out. Your natural seat is your consciousness. You know that. You're conscious of things. But you can't because you're too busy fighting with objects of consciousness. So as you let go, you naturally drift back. And as you drift back, you start to get happier. Why? Because that's what it's like back there. In yoga, in the ancient traditions, there's a word for the self. It happens to be the same word for God. It's called Satchitananda. Eternal conscious ecstasy. Satchitananda. Eternal conscious ecstasy. That is who's back there. I assure you, I told you that to start with. You're the highest thing that ever walked the face of the earth. What is back there watching your garbage is ecstasy. Well, why don't I feel it? Because you're too absorbed in your garbage. If I stare at that picture, that's all I see. If at one point of total focus stare at that picture, then that's my whole life. If you stare at your stuff, then that's all you see. The fact that you're in ecstasy, you'll never see that. Because you're leaving the ecstasy to be absorbed in the garbage you're staring at. Is it possible that someone who's hooked on heroin cannot be hooked on heroin and can learn to live a beautiful life? They don't know that. They're so disturbed by the need for the drug that they don't feel that. Well, that's what's happening in there. Your being, your consciousness is of God. Man is created in the image of God. You are very, very great. You're literally a great being staring at something that's not so great. All right? And so as you let it go, you naturally feel more of the nature of self. You feel Shakti. You feel spirit. You feel that happening naturally. Again, not a technique. So I'm saying, I don't call them techniques. It's the art of letting go. And when you start feeling that joy, it's very beautiful. It's very nice. And at some point, you say, I don't want to give this up. You said something very insulting. For me to be insulted, I have to give up my ecstasy. Nah. It doesn't sound like a good trade, right? It sounds like you give me a penny, I'll give you $1,000. No, I ain't doing that. I know better than that. You hear me? And now you let go. Now you just sit there and say, the pattern's trying to pull you down. You don't stop it. You never fight with your stuff. You relax behind it. You let go. Okay, yes, I understand there's disturbance, but it's not me. I'm the one who sees the disturbance. So you relax. You just keep letting go. And as you let go more and more, you go higher and higher. Then it goes deeper and deeper. So it's not a technique. It's returning to the state of your natural being. You're now being drawn away from your natural being by this garbage you stored inside of you. And the world is hitting it, it's coming up, and you can't handle it. So can you handle it? If you practice. You keep practicing and practicing little by little, you'll find out that you're okay. Now, how would it be if you wake up in the morning and realize nothing can go wrong today? Nothing. I am a little tiny planet spinning around nowhere. It's been spinning around that star for 4.5 billion years. I think it can handle one more day. And I'm riding on the planet. But what if something goes wrong? Who defined it as wrong? Nobody else thinks it's wrong. But she talked to somebody for more than 3 minutes, and I was jealous. Okay, nobody else was. I wonder what caused that. You did. Well, if I don't fight when she first talks to him, well, something could happen. And well, maybe we should wait and accept and honor and respect. And if something happens, we'll deal with it instead of worrying about it. Instead of giving the guy or girl a hard time for talking to somebody for 3 minutes. That'll help your relationship a lot. Do you understand that? You're making the mess, aren't you? You're making the mess because you can't handle yourself. Not that you can't handle the world. You can't handle yourself. You can't handle yourself in reality. Work with it. Work with it. Let go. Relax. Let go. Relax. And you're going to feel ecstasy at some point inside of you. Fall back into it. Fall back into it. But what about the world and my family? You will find that where you come from the deeper place, is the greatest gift you can ever give to family, you can ever give to your children, you can ever give to your parents, you can ever give to your employer. It's like you're giving this beautiful being who's inspired and doesn't need, is just ready to serve. They're nothing higher than that. Okay, so we had a little talk about letting go. People always ask me, well, what does it really mean? Do you understand now? Do you understand what it means to sit in there and learn to handle yourself by relaxing through it? Be kind. The Gita has a beautiful line. The Gita is very deep. It says, one should raise the self with self, not trample down the self. For self which is self's friend can become self's foe. It's talking about uppercase Atman, the witness God, the indwelling consciousness, and the lower being, the lower self, all this garbage psychology. One should raise the self with self, not trample down the self. Ultimately, with compassion, you look at that garbage and realize, I did that to you. You're not doing it to me. I shoved all that stuff in there that I couldn't handle throughout my entire life. Now it's coming back up, and I'm blaming everything and blaming you, right? You did it. You built your own ego. The ego's not a thing God put in there. You built an ego. You built a self-concept, and then you wanted everything to agree with you. And you built all that thing, all right? So look down at that part of you with compassion, with love, with understanding, like you would a child, and say, I can help you. I can help you. I'm up here. I can lift you up. That's how you grow. All right? I hope you understand these things. Jagradav.